Imagine being ripped from your homeland as a teenager and dropped into a culture that's completely alien to you. Most of us would crumble under the pressure to conform, but Daniel, he not only survived, he thrived, and he did it without compromising his faith for a single moment. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't Daniel just the guy who survived the lion's den? But hold on to your seats, because Daniel's story is so much more than a single miraculous escape. It's a story of unshakable faith, political intrigue, and mind-bending prophecies that would make even the most outlandish sci-fi writer blush. Are you ready to discover how a captive became a kingmaker? To unravel prophecies that span millennia? To learn the secrets of thriving in hostile territory without losing your soul? Then buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through one of the most inspiring, surprising, and relevant stories in the entire Bible. Picture this, a young man barely out of his teens, torn from his homeland and thrust into the heart of the most powerful empire of his time. That's Daniel, a Hebrew exile in the glittering city of Babylon. It's 605 BC, and Nebuchadnezzar has just conquered Jerusalem, carting off the cream of Judah's youth to serve in his court. Daniel's world has been turned upside down. One minute he's living in the holy city, the next he's surrounded by pagan temples and strange customs. But here's the kicker, instead of letting this shake his faith, Daniel clings to it like a lifeline. Talk about spiritual resilience. The Babylonians had a clever strategy: take the brightest young minds from conquered nations and Babylonize them. New language, new culture, new names, the works. It was like an ancient version of a makeover show, but with way higher stakes. Daniel and his friends find themselves enrolled in a crash course on all things Babylonian. It's a 3-year program designed to transform them from Hebrew youths to Chaldean wise men. Imagine trying to learn cuneiform while staying true to the God of Abraham. Not exactly a walk in the park. The pressure to conform must have been immense. After all, these weren't just any Babylonians, they were the king's personal staff. One wrong move, and it could be curtains for Daniel and his pals. Yet somehow they managed to walk the tightrope between serving the king and serving God. In the midst of this cultural whirlwind, Daniel receives a new name, Belteshazzar. It's a nod to a Babylonian god, but Daniel doesn't let it change who he is on the inside. He's living proof that divine preservation isn't about where you are, but whose you are. The Babylonian court was no place for the faint of heart. It was a hotbed of politics, intrigue, and danger. Yet Daniel navigates it all with a wisdom beyond his years. It's as if he's got an inside track to the ultimate source of knowledge. Despite the luxuries of the royal court, Daniel never forgets where he came from. He keeps the flame of his faith burning bright, even when everything around him screams, assimilate. It's a testament to the power of a well-rooted faith. As Daniel learns the ways of Babylon, he's not just absorbing information, he's preparing for a divine purpose. Little does he know that God is using this time to position him for a role that will impact nations. Talk about playing the long game. Through it all, Daniel maintains his prophetic integrity. He doesn't compromise his beliefs or values, even when it would be easier to just go with the flow. It's this unwavering commitment that sets the stage for the incredible events to come in his life. Now imagine being offered a spread fit for a king. The finest meats, the most exquisite wines, delicacies from across an empire. Now imagine turning it all down for a plate of vegetables. That's exactly what Daniel did, and it's a decision that would set the tone for his entire life in Babylon. Daniel's resolve to stay pure wasn't just about food preferences, it was a statement of faith, a line in the sand. The king's food was likely offered to idols first, making it spiritually unclean for a devout Hebrew. Daniel wasn't about to compromise his beliefs for a fancy meal, no matter how tempting. This wasn't just a personal choice. Daniel managed to convince his Babylonian overseer to let him and his friends stick to their dietary restrictions. Talk about negotiation skills. It's a prime example of how spiritual resilience can lead to respect, even from those who don't share your beliefs. The real kicker? Daniel proposed a test: 10 days of veggies and water versus the royal diet. It was like an ancient version of a health challenge, but with much higher stakes. Daniel's confidence in God's provision shines through in this bold move. Lo and behold, after 10 days, Daniel and his friends looked healthier and better nourished than those who'd been dining on the king's delicacies. It's a powerful reminder that divine preservation often works through natural means. God didn't miraculously fatten them up. He blessed their obedience through the natural benefits of a healthy diet. This dietary standoff had implications far beyond the dinner table. It set Daniel and his friends apart, marking them as men of integrity and conviction. In a court full of yes-men, their principled stand must have been refreshing and intriguing. The favor they received wasn't just physical. The Bible tells us that God gave them knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. It's as if their spiritual discipline opened the floodgates for intellectual and spiritual growth. Talk about brain food. This episode also showcases Daniel's wisdom in handling potentially volatile situations. He didn't stage a protest or make a scene. Instead, he respectfully proposed an alternative that allowed him to maintain his prophetic integrity without causing offense. The success of Daniel's dietary experiment likely gave him and his friends credibility among their peers. It's not hard to imagine other trainees asking for their secret, opening doors for conversations about their faith. Sometimes, the most powerful witness is simply living out your convictions. Ultimately, this story is about more than just food. It's about staying true to your principles in a culture that's pushing you to conform. Daniel's dietary faithfulness was just the beginning of a life marked by unwavering commitment to God, even in the face of life-threatening challenges. Imagine being woken up in the middle of the night and told, "Interpret the king's dream or die." Oh, and by the way, the king won't even tell you what the dream was. Talk about a high-stakes pop quiz. This is exactly the situation Daniel found himself in, and his response showcases a level of spiritual resilience that's nothing short of extraordinary. Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful king of Babylon, had a dream that left him shaken. But instead of simply asking for interpretations, he demanded his wise men tell him both the dream and its meaning. It was an impossible task, unless, of course, you had a direct line to the source of all wisdom. Daniel's first move wasn't to panic or start guessing. Instead, he turned to prayer, enlisting his friends to join him in seeking divine preservation. It's a powerful reminder that in times of crisis, our first response should be to turn to God rather than relying solely on our own understanding. Lo and behold, God reveals the dream and its interpretation to Daniel in a night vision. Can you imagine the mix of relief and awe Daniel must have felt? It's one thing to believe God can do anything. It's another to experience it so dramatically and personally. When Daniel stands before Nebuchadnezzar, he doesn't take credit for the interpretation. Instead, he points to the God in heaven who reveals mysteries. It's a masterclass in humility and prophetic integrity, giving glory where it's due, even when it would have been easy to bask in the king's praise. The dream itself is a doozy, a huge statue made of different metals, destroyed by a rock that becomes a mountain. Daniel interprets it as a prophecy about future kingdoms, with Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon as the golden head. Talk about a history lesson in advance. Nebuchadnezzar's reaction is priceless. He falls on his face before Daniel, treating him with the honor usually reserved for gods. It's a complete reversal of roles, the most powerful man in the world bowing before a young foreign exile. Divine favor indeed. This incident catapults Daniel to a position of prominence in Babylon. He's made ruler over the entire province and chief of all the wise men. Not bad for a guy who was facing execution just hours earlier. It's a testament to how God can turn dire situations into platforms for his glory. But Daniel doesn't let this success go to his head. He remembers his friends, ensuring they too are promoted. It's a beautiful display of loyalty and an understanding that God's blessings are meant to be shared, not hoarded. This episode sets the stage for Daniel's continued role as a dream interpreter throughout his life in Babylon. It establishes his reputation as a man with unique access to divine wisdom, a reputation that would serve him well through the political upheavals to come. When it comes to tests of faith, Daniel and his friends face some real doozies. We're talking life or death situations that would make most of us break out in a cold sweat. But these guys, they face them with a spiritual resilience that's nothing short of awe-inspiring. First up, we've got the fiery furnace incident. Picture this. King Nebuchadnezzar sets up a massive golden statue and orders everyone to bow down to it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel's three amigos, say, "Thanks, but no thanks." Talk about standing out in a crowd. The king's not too happy about this. In fact, he's so mad, he orders the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. That's like turning the oven up to 11. It's overkill, but it shows just how serious he is about stamping out any rebellion. But here's where it gets really interesting. The 3 Hebrews don't argue or try to weasel their way out. Instead, they calmly state that their God is able to save them. But even if he doesn't, they still won't bow down. Now that's what you call unshakable faith. Into the furnace they go, but plot twist, they're not alone. The king sees a 4th figure in the flames, described as looking like a son of the gods. Talk about divine preservation. Not only are the 3 men unharmed, but they've got heavenly company in their trial. Fast forward a few years, and it's Daniel's turn in the hot seat, or should we say, the cat's den. King Darius has been tricked into passing a law that essentially outlaws prayer to anyone but him. Daniel's response? He keeps right on praying 3 times a day, just like always. The consequence? A one-way ticket to a den of hungry lions. But Daniel faces this death trap with the same quiet confidence we saw earlier. He trusts in God's protection, and boy does God come through. An angel shuts the lions' mouths, and Daniel emerges without a scratch. What's particularly striking about both these incidents is the impact they have on the pagan kings. Nebuchadnezzar praises the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, while Darius declares that everyone in his kingdom should fear and reverence Daniel's God. These stories aren't just about miraculous escapes. They're powerful testimonies to the impact of unwavering faith. Daniel and his friends didn't know for sure that God would save them, but they were faithful regardless of the outcome. That's prophetic integrity in action. In both cases, what started as a threat to their lives became a platform for showcasing God's power. It's a reminder that our trials, when faced with faith, can become powerful witnesses to God's reality and love. Daniel's career in Babylon is like a masterclass in how to thrive under changing leadership. This guy served under not 1, not 2, but at least 4 different rulers. Talk about job security in a volatile political climate. It all starts with Nebuchadnezzar, the guy who brought Daniel to Babylon in the first place. Under his reign, Daniel goes from captive to top advisor. It's like going from the mailroom to the boardroom, but with way higher stakes. Then comes Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's son. He's the one who sees the infamous writing on the wall during a wild party. Who does he call to interpret it? You guessed it, Daniel. Even in a new administration, Daniel's reputation for wisdom and integrity stands firm. Next up is Darius the Mede, who takes over after the fall of Babylon to the Persians. New empire, new rules, but the same old Daniel. Darius is so impressed with him that he plans to put Daniel in charge of the whole kingdom. Talk about failing upward. Finally, we see Daniel serving under Cyrus the Persian. This is the king who ultimately allows the Jews to return to Jerusalem. Coincidence that he had a top advisor who was intimately familiar with Jewish prophecies? Probably not. Through all these transitions, Daniel maintains his prophetic integrity. He doesn't change his tune to fit the new regime. Whether he's interpreting dreams, reading mysterious writings, or just offering sound advice, he always points to the God of Israel as the source of his wisdom. What's remarkable is how Daniel navigates the treacherous waters of court politics. He's not just surviving these transitions, he's thriving. It's a testament to his wisdom, yes, but also to the divine preservation that keeps him safe through multiple regime changes. Daniel's consistent character through these transitions is impressive. He doesn't get cocky when he's promoted, nor does he despair when new rulers come in. His spiritual resilience allows him to maintain his identity and faith no matter who's on the throne. It's worth noting that Daniel's influence seems to grow with each transition. By the time we get to Cyrus, Daniel is in a position to influence policy that affects his entire people. It's a powerful example of how steadfast faith can lead to expanded influence over time. Perhaps most importantly, Daniel's ability to serve under multiple rulers showcases an understanding that ultimate authority belongs to God, not earthly kings. This perspective allows him to serve faithfully without compromising his beliefs, no matter who's wearing the crown. When it comes to prophetic visions, Daniel is in a league of his own. We're not talking about vague hunches or fortune cookie predictions here. Daniel's visions are epic, sweeping panoramas of future events that would make even the most imaginative sci-fi writer's head spin. Take the vision of the four beasts in Daniel 7, for instance. Lions with eagles' wings, bears with ribs in their mouths, four-headed leopards. It's like a bizarre zoological mashup. But these aren't just random animal amalgamations. They represent future kingdoms and rulers, painting a vivid picture of the rise and fall of empires. Then there's the vision of the ram and the goat in Daniel 8. It's a cosmic battle played out with farm animals, but it's actually depicting the conflict between the Medo-Persian and Greek empires. Talk about seeing the future through a unique lens. What's fascinating is how these visions blend the immediate future with the distant future. Some of Daniel's prophecies were fulfilled within a few hundred years, while others point to end-time events that are still in our future. It's like a prophetic telescope, zooming from near to far in a single sweeping view. One of the most significant visions is the prophecy of the 70 weeks in Daniel 9. This complex timeline predicts the coming of the Messiah with startling accuracy. It's a prime example of prophetic integrity, demonstrating the precision and reliability of God's word. But these visions weren't just information dumps. They often left Daniel physically and emotionally drained. After one particularly intense vision, Daniel was sick for days. It's a reminder that being a conduit for divine revelation isn't always a comfortable experience. What sets Daniel's visions apart is their scope and detail. He's not just predicting the next ruler or the outcome of a battle. He's mapping out the course of human history, right up to the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. Talk about seeing the big picture. Interestingly, Daniel doesn't always understand everything he sees. Sometimes he asks for explanations. Other times he's told to seal up the words until the time of the end. It's a humble acknowledgement that even a great prophet doesn't have all the answers. These visions also showcase the interplay between human free will and divine sovereignty. While the broad strokes of future events are laid out, there's still room for human choice and responsibility within that framework. It's a delicate balance that Daniel navigates with wisdom and grace. Perhaps most importantly, Daniel's visions always point beyond earthly kingdoms to God's ultimate rule. No matter how dire the circumstances or how powerful the earthly rulers, the message is clear. God is in control, and his kingdom will ultimately triumph. It's a message of hope and spiritual resilience that has encouraged believers for millennia. Daniel's influence extends far beyond his lifetime, leaving an indelible mark on both Jewish and Christian theology. His writings have shaped our understanding of prophecy, apocalyptic literature, and faithful living under pressure. It's like he dropped a stone in the pond of history, and we're still feeling the ripples today. In Judaism, Daniel is revered as one of the greatest prophets. His unwavering faith in the face of exile and persecution has served as a model of spiritual resilience for generations of Jews facing their own trials. The Hanukkah story, with its themes of resisting assimilation, echoes Daniel's stand against Babylonian culture. For Christians, Daniel's prophecies about the Messiah are seen as key Christological texts. The vision of one like a son of man in Daniel 7 is often linked to Jesus' favorite self-designation. It's as if Daniel provided a prophetic preview of the gospel story centuries before it unfolded. Daniel's apocalyptic visions have had a profound impact on eschatology, the study of end times. His imagery of beasts, kingdoms, and the Ancient of Days has influenced everything from the Book of Revelation to modern-day end times speculation. Love it or hate it, you can't discuss biblical prophecy without referencing Daniel. The story of Daniel in the lion's den has become a cultural touchstone, symbolizing faith under fire. It's been depicted in countless works of art, retold in children's stories, and referenced in literature and popular culture. Even people who've never cracked open a Bible know about Daniel and the lions. Daniel's example of maintaining his faith while serving in a pagan government has provided a model for believers engaged in public service throughout history. His ability to be in the world, but not of it, showcases a balance of engagement and separation that many still strive to emulate. The Book of Daniel has also been influential in shaping Jewish and Christian views on angels and spiritual warfare. His encounters with heavenly beings and visions of cosmic conflict have expanded our understanding of the spiritual realm and its intersection with earthly events. Daniel's commitment to prayer and his visionary experiences have inspired mystics and contemplatives across religious traditions. His practice of praying 3 times a day towards Jerusalem has influenced Jewish prayer customs, while his visions have sparked the imaginations of Christian mystics. In the realm of biblical interpretation, Daniel's prophecies have been a testing ground for various hermeneutical approaches. From literal interpretations to symbolic readings, scholars have grappled with how to understand and apply Daniel's complex visions, shaping broader debates about prophetic literature. Perhaps most significantly, Daniel's life story continues to offer hope and encouragement to believers facing their own Babylons. His example of maintaining prophetic integrity in a hostile culture resonates with those striving to live out their faith in increasingly secular societies. It's a timeless reminder that divine preservation is not about escaping challenges, but about standing firm through them. As we wrap up our exploration of Daniel's extraordinary spiritual odyssey, let's take a moment to reflect on how his story can transform our lives today. Daniel's unwavering faith, integrity, and wisdom in the face of tremendous challenges offer us a powerful model for navigating our own Babylons. Consider this: where in your life are you facing pressure to compromise your values? How can you, like Daniel, stand firm in your convictions while still excelling in your responsibilities? Perhaps it's time to take a stand, even if it means going against the cultural grain. Now here's a challenge for you. In the comments below, share one area of your life where you're inspired to apply Daniel's example of spiritual resilience. Your insight could be the spark someone else needs to ignite their own faith journey. Speaking of faith journeys, do you sometimes feel like your spiritual life has hit a plateau? You're not alone. Many believers struggle to deepen their relationship with God amidst life's daily demands. But here's some good news: the solution might be simpler than you think. In the comments, you'll find our ebook, 30 Habits to Draw Closer to God. This isn't just another self-help guide. It's a practical roadmap, inspired by spiritual giants like Daniel, designed to help you forge a meaningful, lasting connection with God. Imagine transforming your daily routine into a powerful tool for spiritual growth. Picture the peace and fulfillment of living each day in harmony with God's teachings, just as Daniel did in the courts of Babylon. This ebook offers a clear, accessible path to renew your faith and find purpose in a world that often feels chaotic. The spiritual transformation you're seeking is within reach. Check out 30 Habits to Draw Closer to God now in the comments and embark on your journey toward a deeper, more vibrant relationship with God. Remember, a fulfilling spiritual life isn't a distant dream. It's a reality waiting for you to embrace. Don't miss out on more inspiring biblical character studies like this. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay updated on our latest videos. And hey, why keep this inspiration to yourself? Share this video with someone who could use a dose of Daniel's courage and wisdom in their life. Until next time, remember, like Daniel, you too can thrive in your Babylon. Your faithfulness today could be setting the stage for God's miraculous work tomorrow. Keep standing firm, keep seeking wisdom, and keep your eyes fixed on the God who preserves his people through every trial.